Hey guys, my name is Moyo. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I cut and sew this A-line skirt with side slits. So if you're interested, please make sure you watch to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys. First, I'll place my tape on the beginning of my paper and I'll mark my waist to hip, which is 10.5. So I marked that on both sides and I drew a straight line and labeled that my hip. I'll take my skirt length, which is 34, and I labeled that my skirt length, and also I labeled my waist. I already folded my zip allowance, so I just labeled that. Now I will take my waist measurement, which is 27, and I'm going to divide that by 4. I got 6.75, so I took 6.75 on my waist. On my hip, I did my hip divided by 4, and that gave me 10. And on my skirt length, I added 1 inch to what I have on my hip, so I have 11 inches on my skirt length. And now I'm going to go ahead and connect the points that I've just made. For my seam allowance, I marked 1 inch on my waist, 1 inch on my hip, 1 inch halfway through, and also 1 inch on my skirt length. And then I'm going to connect those points. I also labeled that my seam allowance. Lastly, I added 1 inch on my waist area, but I will only connect that to my hip. And on my zipper area, I will take only ½ inch on the waist area, and I'm going to take 1.5 on my hip area and then 1.5 on my skirt length area, and I will connect the points. Now let's cut it out. Once I'm done cutting, I'm going to open the zip allowance on my skirt pattern, and then I'm going to cut the back first. Also, I folded my fabric into 2 and I cut it out. One thing you should not forget is to notch your zip allowance on your skirt. So you're going to come to the waist of your back zip and then you're going to measure 1.5 and then notch it. Now I'm going to set that aside, and now I'm going to cut off the 1.5 allowance and also cut off the extra 1 inch by the side. Now I folded my fabric into 2 and I placed the center of my front pattern with the center of my folded fabric, and then I cut it out. Now that I'm done cutting it out, I'm going to come to the middle, and then from the waist area, I'm going to measure 1 inch down, and I'm going to connect that 1 inch to any comfortable point on my waist, and I'm going to cut that out as well. For my band, I cut out a 4-inch wide band and I ironed interfacing on it and folded it into 2, and also the length was longer than my actual waist length. You can add, say, extra 5 inches to it. To sew my skirt, I started with the back and I measured 1.5 on the waist, 1.5 on the hip, 1.5 on the length of my skirt, that's towards the zipper area. Just mark it on different points, right? And then you're going to connect the line that I've just marked. And once I'm done with that, I went over to the sewing machine to sew this line together. Once you're done sewing, don't forget to open up the seam allowance and iron on that point so that it will be easy for you to insert your zip. I turned my back part to the right side, and as you can see, it looks very neat because I've ironed. Then I'm going to place the front piece on it, and if you look at the waist area, you will see that the waist area, it aligns properly. It's not that one is high and one is low. So if you follow my steps, you should have something like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and insert my allowance, that's my sewing allowance. Now I'm going to teach you how to shape your skirt, so pay attention. First, you want to measure what you have on your front, and on my front I have about 17.5, right? So I'm going to place that 17.5 on the beginning of my back skirt, my back waist, right? And I'm going to measure what is there. So what is there is 34.5, and I'm going to place a mark on 27, that's my waist, and I'm going to measure what is left, and I have 7, and then I'm going to divide that 7 by 4. So whatever allowance I get there is what I'm going to be taking on my waist. This is very, very simple. My allowance for each side of my waist is 1.75. If you don't have a calculator near you, then you can just divide your tape twice, the way I did on camera. Okay, it's very easy. So just the same thing I've done on my waist is what I'm going to be doing on my hips. If you have to, then measure your waist to hip and mark a point. So all I'm doing is just to measure the front and place what I have on the back, and then I'm just going to take the allowance that is left, and then I'm going to divide it into 4, and whatever I get is going to be the allowance for each side of my hip. Okay, so now I'm just going to get all my allowances, and then I'm going to mark them on each point. Like my waist allowance is 1.75, I marked it. My hip allowance is 1 inch, I marked it. And then I'm going to connect my allowance, all those points that I've just gotten, and then I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and sew a straight stitch all the way down. So remember that I want to add slits at the side of my skirt, so I'm just going to fold my skirt together like this, and then from the waist I'm going to mark where I want my slit to stop. So for my waist I measured 22 inches, and then I notched that point. Notching that point, I'm going to open up my side seam and I'm going to iron properly. So the essence of this is to make the point that we're going to open later, we want to make it sharp. So now that I'm done ironing, I have something like this. That is fine. So now I'm going to start from the base of my skirt, and I'm going to open this slit up to the point that I notched earlier. So once I was done sewing, I ensured to sew with my sewing machine so that I can secure the side. Next, I'm going to head over to the zipper area, and I'm going to open up the seam for my zip, and now I want to add my band to the skirt. To add my band, I grab the band that I already made earlier, and I place the right side of the band to the right side of my skirt. So I opened up the band, and then I attach just one right side of my band to one right side of my skirt, and then I sewed round. And then I'm going to grab my hemming gum, and then for the other parts I did not sew to my skirt, I'm going to fold a little bit of that band, and I'm going to sew my hemming gum on it round. And once I'm done, I'm going to place that other part I did not sew. I'm just going to place it on top of the one that I've sewed, and then I'm going to iron it. Now that I'm done attaching my band, you can see that my band looks neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew on that area just below the band that I've just made. Just make sure you sew very tiny so that it will look very, very neat. So I sewed the zipper area of my band just to get my accurate waist measurement, and then I opened it up. And finally, I'm going to insert my zip into my skirt. So my zip is starting from my waist up to where it ends. After you are done folding your side slit, don't forget to fold the hemline of your skirt so that your skirt is going to come out looking so neat. And that is it on how to make this skirt. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give me a huge thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.